The letter from First National Bank sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. I must have read it 20 times, but the words still didn't make sense. Our family farm, the one my grandparents built from nothing, the one where I spent every summer of my childhood, was apparently in default on a mortgage I didn't even know existed. My name is Peyton, and until that morning I thought I knew everything about our family's finances. I'm the one who helped Mom with the accounting after Dad passed, the one who tracked every penny we spent on equipment and seeds. But this was completely off the books. My hands were shaking as I dialed Mom's number. "Are you home? We need to talk." "I'm actually heading to the store," Mum said, her voice cheerful. "Can it wait? We still need to plan the menu for Christmas dinner." "No, it can't wait. This is about the farm." There was a pause on the other end. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. While waiting, I paced my small apartment, trying to make sense of it all. The farm had been paid off decades ago. Grandpa made sure of that before he died. The framed mortgage-burning photo still hung in the farmhouse dining room. So where did this new loan come from? Mom arrived wearing her gardening clothes, dirt still fresh on her knees. Her face fell when she saw the letter in my hand. "Where did you get that?" she asked, reaching for it. I pulled it back. "It was delivered here by mistake. Mum, what's going on? Why is there a mortgage on the farm?" She sank into my couch, suddenly looking older than her 48 years. "Your Uncle Kerry said it was temporary, just a small business loan to invest in some new equipment." "Uncle Kerry?" My stomach dropped. "What does he have to do with the farm's finances?" "He's been helping manage things since your father passed. You know how good he is with money." "Was good with money," I corrected her. "Before the casino opened in Cedar Rapids." "Peyton, that's not fair. He's your father's brother." I slapped the letter down on the coffee table. "Then explain this. $300,000, Mom. That's not equipment money. That's selling the farm money." Mom's face went pale. "That's impossible. Kerry promised—" "When did he ask you to sign for this loan?" She wouldn't meet my eyes. I didn't sign anything." The room went silent except for the hum of my refrigerator. "What do you mean you didn't sign anything? Your name is on this letter." "Kerry said he'd handle all the paperwork. He just needed my verbal okay." I felt sick. "Mom, that's not how mortgages work. Someone had to sign these documents." My phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Kerry himself. "Family dinner tonight at my place. Important news to share. 6 p.m. I showed Mom the text. Her hands started trembling. He couldn't have. "Oh, I think he could," I said, grabbing my car keys. "And I think we're about to find out exactly what he did." Mom grabbed my arm. "Wait, Peyton, maybe we should talk to him privately first." "Why? So he can spin another story? Feed us more lies?" I was already heading for the door. "No, Mom, I'm done with secrets. If he has news to share, let's hear it. But I'm bringing this letter with me." "Your cousin Marcus will be there," Mom said, following me. "And Aunt Audrey. Maybe we should wait." "Perfect." I cut her off. "The whole family should hear this, because if Uncle Kerry did what I think he did, this isn't just about a loan. This is about our legacy. Everything Grandpa and Grandma built." As we drove to Kerry's house, I could see Mom fighting back tears. The farm wasn't just property to us, it was our history, our future, the place where every important family moment had played out. The thought of losing it because of Uncle Kerry's investments made my blood boil. "I should have paid more attention," Mum whispered. "After your father died, It was easier to let Kerry handle things." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "This isn't your fault, Mom, but we're going to fix it. Whatever it takes." We pulled into Kerry's driveway just as Marcus was getting out of his truck. One look at my face and he knew something was wrong. "Peyton, what's going on?" I held up the bank letter. "We're about to find out. Hope everyone's hungry for a side of truth with dinner." The front door opened and there stood Uncle Kerry, wearing his usual confident smile. But this time, I saw right through it. This time, I was ready for war. Uncle Kerry's dining room felt smaller than usual that night, cramped with tension and unspoken accusations. Aunt Audrey bustled around, setting out her famous pot roast, while Kerry held court at the head of the table, acting like everything was normal. Pass the potatoes, would you, Peyton? He asked, as if I hadn't been clutching the bank letter like a weapon throughout the entire meal. I slid the bowl across the table without a word. Marcus, sitting next to me, gave my knee a reassuring squeeze under the table. So, Kerry cleared his throat, I wanted to gather everyone because I have some exciting news about the farm's future. Funny you should mention the farm, I said, pulling out the letter. Care to explain this first? The room went silent. Aunt Audrey stopped mid-pour with the gravy boat hovering over Kerry's plate. Where did you get that? Kerry's smile flickered but didn't quite fade. Does it matter? What matters is why our farm suddenly has a $300,000 mortgage on it. Peyton, Aunt Audrey cut in, this is hardly dinner conversation. Actually, Marcus spoke up, I'd like to hear about this too. That farm's been in our family for 3 generations. Kerry dabbed his mouth with a napkin, buying time. It's all part of a broader investment strategy. I've been diversifying our assets. By gambling away our inheritance? The words shot out before I could stop them. Peyton, Mom gasped. Kerry's face darkened. I don't appreciate what you're implying. Then explain the mortgage. Show us these amazing investments you've made, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you forged Mom's signature to take out a loan on property that isn't even yours. Aunt Audrey slammed her hand on the table. How dare you accuse your uncle? I have proof, I said, pulling out more papers from my bag. The bank confirmed Mom never appeared in person to sign these documents. So either you hired a very talented forger, Uncle Kerry, or you did it yourself. Kerry stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. You're out of line, young lady. I've managed this family's finances for years. And how many trips to the Riverside Casino have you made this month? Marcus asked quietly. Because I saw your car there last weekend. And the weekend before. The colour drained from Kerry's face. I was meeting business associates. At the blackjack tables, I pressed. Or was it poker this time? Kerry? Aunt Audrey's voice had lost its edge of certainty. What are they talking about? He spread his hands in a placating gesture. Look, I've made some strategic investments that will benefit everyone. The farm's value has been sitting stagnant for years. I found a way to make it work for us. By selling it? I pulled out one final document, a real estate listing I'd discovered online. Were you going to tell everyone before or after you closed the deal? Mum started crying softly. Marcus cursed under his breath. Even Aunt Audrey looked shocked. It's not what you think, Kerry insisted, but his voice had gone hoarse. The buyer is offering well above market value. We could all have a fresh start. That farm is our fresh start, I cut him off. It's our heritage, our home. You had no right. Just then, Kerry's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and I caught a glimpse of the caller ID. Lucky Sevens Management. Excuse me, he muttered, heading for the hallway. I need to take this. Of course you do, I called after him. Another business associate? The conversation from the hallway was muffled but clear enough. Yes, I'll have it by Friday. No need to send anyone. I said I'll handle it. When he returned, his confident facade had crumbled completely. Dinner's over. I think you should all leave. This isn't over, Kerry, I said, gathering my things. Not by a long shot. As we filed out, Mom lingered behind with her brother. I heard her say softly, How could you do this to us? His response chilled me to the bone. You don't understand what's at stake here, Laurel. Some things can't be undone. In the driveway, Marcus grabbed my arm. You know this is just the beginning, right? Kerry won't go down without a fight. Good, I replied, watching my uncle through the window as he paced, still on his phone, because neither will I. Mom emerged from the house, wiping her eyes. What do we do now? I hugged her tight, my mind already racing with plans. Now we dig deeper. Because if there's one thing I learned tonight, it's that Uncle Kerry is hiding way more than just gambling debts. As we drove away, I caught one last glimpse of Kerry in my rearview mirror. He was watching us leave, his phone still pressed to his ear, looking more like a cornered animal than the uncle I once trusted. This was war, and I intended to win. You're not going to believe what I found, Marcus said, spreading papers across my kitchen table the next morning. He'd spent the night digging through county records, and the dark circles under his eyes showed it. "Show me everything," I said, sliding him a cup of coffee. "So the mortgage isn't the only thing Kerry's been hiding. Look at these property transfers." He pointed to a series of documents. "He's been selling off parcels of the farm piece by piece for the last 8 months. My coffee cup froze halfway to my mouth. "That's impossible. We would have noticed." "Not if he kept the original boundaries intact on paper. He's been selling usage rights, mineral rights, anything he could parcel off without changing the official property lines." A knock at the door made us both jump. It was my sister Reese, looking sceptical as ever. "Mom told me you're on some crusade against Uncle Kerry," she said, dropping her purse on the counter. "Don't you think you're overreacting?" I gestured to the papers. "Take a look for yourself." As Reese scanned the documents, her expression shifted from doubt to disbelief. "These signatures, they look like Mom's, but—" "They're forgeries," Marcus confirmed. "Good ones, but definitely fake. Look at the loop on the L. Mom always extends hers." "I still can't believe Uncle Kerry would do this," Reese muttered. "He helped me pay for college." "With whose money?" I asked pointedly. "Because I'm starting to wonder if any of his generosity actually came from him." Marcus pulled out his phone. "That's not all. Remember that business trip he took to Vegas last month? I found these on his social media." The photos showed Kerry at various casino tables, stacks of chips in front of him. In one particularly damning image, he was shaking hands with someone whose jacket clearly showed the Lucky Sevens logo. "I need to check something," I said, heading to my bedroom. I returned with a small box of papers I'd grabbed from Kerry's study during the chaos of last night's dinner. "You stole from his office?" Reese looked horrified. "I borrowed evidence," I corrected her, dumping the contents onto the table. "And look what we have here." Among credit card statements and receipts was a hotel bill from the Lucky Sevens resort and casino. But it wasn't the amount that caught my attention. It was the handwritten note in the margin. "Payment plan discussed with Tony. $50K month until squared." $50,000 a month? Marcus whistled. "That's not gambling money, that's—" "Loan shark territory," I finished. "No wonder he's selling everything that isn't bolted down." Reese sank into a chair. "This is bad, isn't it? Like, really bad?" "It gets worse," Marcus said, pulling up another document on his laptop. "I found the buyer for the farm. It's a shell company owned by— guess who, Lucky Sevens Management Group." My blood ran cold. "They're not buying the farm. They're taking it as payment." Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Kerry's here. Says he can explain everything. Please come over." I showed the message to Marcus and Reese. "You thinking what I'm thinking? That he knows we're on to him?" Marcus stood up, gathering the papers. "Definitely." "I'm coming with you," Reese announced, surprising me. "I want to hear him try to talk his way out of this." We drove to Mom's house in tense silence. When we arrived, Kerry's expensive SUV was in the driveway, looking out of place next to Mom's old sedan. Through the window, we could see them in the kitchen. Kerry was gesturing animatedly while Mom sat at the table, her face in her hands. "Ready?" I asked, my hand on the door handle. "Wait," Reese grabbed my arm. "Look." A black luxury car pulled up across the street. 2 men in suits stepped out but didn't approach the house. They just stood there, watching. "Lucky Sevens welcoming committee," Marcus muttered. "This isn't just about the farm anymore, is it?" Reese's voice shook slightly. I squared my shoulders. "No, it's not, but that doesn't change anything. We're going in there and we're going to make Uncle Kerry tell us exactly what kind of mess he's gotten our family into." As we walked to the door, I could feel the suited men's eyes on us. Whatever Kerry had gotten himself into, it was bigger and more dangerous than I'd imagined. But turning back wasn't an option, not with our family's legacy on the line. I took one last look at the men across the street, then opened the door. The sound of Kerry's desperate explanations spilled out into the morning air, along with Mom's quiet sobs. Time to find out just how deep this rabbit hole went. The kitchen fell silent as we walked in. Kerry stood by the sink, his expensive suit wrinkled, looking like he hadn't slept. Mom sat at the table, tissues scattered around her. "Well, if it isn't the amateur detective squad," Kerry said, attempting his usual smirk but failing. Cut the act, I snapped. Who are your friends outside? His face twitched. What friends? The two guys in suits watching the house, Marcus said. They with Lucky Sevens. Kerry's attempt at composure crumbled. You don't understand what you're dealing with. None of you do. Then explain it, Mom pleaded. Tell us the truth, Kerry. All of it. Before he could answer, Aunt Audrey burst through the back door. Kerry, I just got a call from the bank. They're saying our house is being used as collateral for... She stopped short when she saw all of us. Your house too? I turned to Kerry. Just how much have you leveraged? I had a system, he said, pacing now. It was working. I was up almost $500,000 at one point. Until you weren't, Marcus finished. Kerry slumped against the counter. Tony, he runs the high-stakes room at Lucky Sevens. He said he'd give me time to pay it back. But then, the interest started piling up. So, you sold pieces of our farm, I said. Forged Mom's signature. And, when that wasn't enough, you decided to sell the whole thing? Aunt Audrey gasped. Kerry, tell me that's not true. A knock at the front door made everyone freeze. Through the window, I saw one of the suited men standing on the porch. Don't, Kerry warned as I moved toward the door. They're not here for a friendly chat. But another figure appeared behind the suited man. Willie, our old family friend and retired lawyer. I opened the door. Morning, Peyton, Willie said calmly. Thought I might find everyone here. He nodded to the suited man. You can tell Tony I'm handling this now. The man hesitated, then retreated to his car. Willie, Kerry started. This isn't... Shut up, Kerry, Willie cut him off, entering the kitchen. I've known your family 30 years. Watched you kids grow up. Never thought I'd see the day one of you would betray your own blood like this. He set his briefcase on the table and pulled out a folder. Lucky for everyone, I've been keeping my own records, ever since I noticed unusual activity on the farm's property listings. You knew? Mum asked. I suspected, Willie replied. Been gathering evidence, just in case, including security footage from Lucky Sevens showing Kerry here, making some very interesting deals. Kerry went pale. You can't. Can't what? Show how you've been laundering money through the casino? Using the farm to cover illegal loans? Willie's voice was steel. Try me. Aunt Audrey started crying. Kerry, what have you done? I can fix this, Kerry insisted. Just need a little more time. Time's up, I said, pulling out my phone. Those property transfers you made? I sent them to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division this morning. The room went dead quiet. You didn't, Kerry whispered. I did. And you know what they found really interesting? The connection between Lucky Sevens management and certain offshore accounts. Marcus stepped forward. Face it, Uncle Kerry. It's over. Kerry's phone buzzed. His hands shook as he read the message. Tony's pulling out of the deal. Says it's too hot now. He looked up, desperate. Do you know what they'll do to me? Should have thought of that before you gambled away our heritage, I said. Willie opened his briefcase again. There's a way to minimize the damage, but you'll have to come clean. About everything. And the farm? Mom asked quietly. The sales can be reversed, Willie assured her. Kerry's forgeries make them legally void, but... He looked at Kerry. You'll have to testify against Lucky Sevens. They'll kill me, Kerry protested. They won't, Willie said, because by this afternoon, the FBI will have their entire operation. You're small fish, Kerry, but only if you cooperate now. I watched my uncle, the man who'd once taught me to ride a bike, who'd given speeches at family gatherings about the importance of legacy, crumble into a chair. Okay, he whispered. Okay. As Willie started making calls, Mom reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Outside, the black car finally pulled away. What happens now? Reese asked. I looked around at my family, broken but not destroyed, shaken but still standing. Now we rebuild. Together. Through the window, I could see the distant fields of our farm still there, still ours. Whatever came next, we'd face it as a family, minus one uncle who'd learned the hard way that betrayal carries a price. The next few days passed in a blur of FBI interviews and legal meetings. I sat in Willie's office, surrounded by stacks of documents, when he dropped another bombshell. There's something else you need to see, Willie said, sliding a weathered envelope across his desk. Found this in your grandparents' old safety deposit box. Inside was a letter, dated just before my grandfather's death. As I read it, my hands started shaking. Is this what I think it is? I asked. Willie nodded. A trust agreement. Your grandfather never fully transferred the farm's ownership to Kerry's generation. He set up a family trust instead. Which means Kerry never had the right to sell it in the first place. I finished. The door opened and Marcus rushed in. You need to see this. Now. He pulled up a video on his phone, security footage from Lucky Sevens showing Kerry in what looked like a back room, shaking hands with several men in suits. Where did you get this? Willie asked, leaning forward. Anonymous email. But look at the timestamp. This was 3 months before Grandpa died. I felt sick. He was planning this even then. It gets worse, Marcus said. Look who else is in the frame. He zoomed in on a familiar face in the background, Aunt Audrey. She knew, I whispered. She knew everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Audrey's packing up their house. Says they're taking a trip. They're running, Marcus said. Willie was already dialing. Not if I can help it. He spoke quickly into the phone, then turned to us. FBI's on their way to Kerry's house, but we need to get there first. There might be documents they could destroy. We raced to Kerry's place, arriving just as Aunt Audrey was loading suitcases into her car. Going somewhere, I called out. She froze. Just taking a break, after everything that's happened. Save it, Marcus cut in. We saw the video, Audrey, from the casino. Her face hardened. You don't understand. We were trying to save the family. By stealing from it? I stepped closer. By betraying everything Grandpa built? Your grandfather was old-fashioned, she spat. Sitting on all that wealth, letting it rot in those fields. Kerry had vision. Vision? I pulled out the trust agreement. Is that why you helped him plan this before Grandpa even died? The sound of sirens cut through the air. Audrey's eyes went wild. She lunged for her car, but Marcus blocked her path. Move, she screamed. No, he said firmly. No more running. FBI agents swarmed the driveway. Through the chaos, I saw Kerry trying to slip out the back door. He locked eyes with me for a moment, then raised his hands as agents surrounded him. Mrs. Diaz, an agent approached Audrey. We need you to come with us. As they led them both away, Willie arrived with Mom and Reese. The trust agreement changes everything, Willie said. The farm was never legally Kerry's to sell. We can void all transactions immediately. Mom stared at her brother and sister-in-law being placed in separate cars. How long? She asked quietly. How long were they planning this? Based on the evidence? Willie sighed. Since before your father got sick, they were just waiting for the right moment. Reese hugged Mom tight. At least it's over now. But something still nagged at me. I walked into Kerry's house, now swarming with FBI agents. In his study, I noticed something odd, a family photo hanging slightly crooked. Behind it was a small safe. We'll need to get that opened, an agent said. Try 11/22/63, I suggested. Grandpa's birthday. Kerry always used it for everything. The safe clicked open. Inside were more documents, but one caught my eye. A letter from Grandpa to Kerry, never sent. My dear son, it began. I know what you're planning. Remember that true wealth isn't in money or land. It's in the trust we place in each other. Don't make me regret placing mine in you. He had known. All along he had known. An agent took the letter for evidence, but its words stayed with me. Outside, the setting sun cast long shadows across the farm's distant fields. The same fields Grandpa had worked his whole life, the legacy he had tried to protect even from beyond the grave. You okay? Marcus asked, joining me. I nodded, watching another FBI car drive away, just thinking about Grandpa, about trust, and how we're going to rebuild it, all of it. The family reunion was in 2 days. Usually a time for celebration, now it would be something else. A reckoning, a new beginning. As we drove home, I thought about all the secrets still buried in those fields, and all the truths that were finally coming to light. The annual family reunion felt more like a trial than a celebration. Our usual spot in the farmhouse dining room was packed with relatives, all buzzing with questions about Kerry and Audrey's arrest. I stood at the head of the table, my evidence folder feeling heavier by the second. "Before we start dinner," I announced, "there's something you all need to know." "Is this about Kerry?" Uncle Pete called out. "Because we've all seen the news." "You've seen what they're willing to tell the public," I said, opening the folder. "But there's more. Much more." Marcus dimmed the lights as I started the presentation we'd prepared. The first slide showed Kerry's casino photos. "This isn't just about gambling debts," I explained. "This is about a systematic betrayal that started years ago." Gasps filled the room as I showed the forged documents, the property transfers, the secret meetings. With each revelation, the weight of Kerry's betrayal seemed to press down on everyone. "But why?" Cousin Sarah asked. "We're family." "Greed," Mom said quietly. "Pure and simple." I clicked to the next slide, security footage showing Kerry and Audrey meeting with Lucky Seven's management. "They were planning to turn the farm into a casino resort," I revealed. "That's why they needed full control. They'd been working with Lucky Sevens for years." "That's impossible," Uncle Pete protested. "Kerry loved this place as much as any of us." "Did he?" I pulled out Grandpa's letter. "Because Grandpa didn't think so. Read this." I passed the letter around. Watching their faces as they read Grandpa's warnings about Kerry was like watching their memories of him crumble in real time. "There's more," Marcus added, standing up. "Show them the trust agreement, Peyton." As I explained the legal implications, the room erupted in angry outbursts. "So he never even had the right to sell? What about the money he borrowed from me?" I knew something was off when he offered to invest my savings. "Everyone, please," Mom called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. "This isn't just about money. This is about trust. About family." Suddenly, the front door burst open. Aunt Audrey stood there, out on bail, mascara streaking down her face. "You're wrong about everything," she said, her voice shaking. "Kerry was trying to save this backwards family, drag you all into the modern world. By stealing from us?" I challenged. "By destroying our heritage?" "Heritage?" She laughed bitterly. "A bunch of cornfields and old memories. Kerry had vision. He saw potential. The only thing Kerry saw was dollar signs," Marcus shot back. "And you helped him every step of the way." "Get out," Mom stood up, pointing at the door. "You're not family anymore." Audrey's face twisted. "Fine, but don't come crying when this precious farm of yours can't pay its bills. Kerry was right. You're all living in the past." "No," I said, pulling out one final document. "We're living in reality, and in reality the FBI just seized all your assets, including that vacation house in Florida you bought with stolen family money." The colour drained from her face. Without another word, she turned and fled. "There's one more thing," I continued, facing my stunned relatives. "Grandpa's trust agreement doesn't just protect the farm, it sets up a family council to manage it. Every adult member gets a vote on major decisions." "You mean we all get a say?" Cousin Sarah asked. "Exactly. No more single person having total control. We do this together, or not at all." The room was quiet for a moment, then Uncle Pete stood up. "I vote we keep the farm. Rebuild it right this time." One by one, hands raised in agreement, Mum wiped tears from her eyes as the vote became unanimous. "Then it's settled," I said. "But there's work to do. Kerry's deals left us with legal battles ahead. We'll need everyone's help." "You've got it," voices called out from around the table. As the meeting turned to dinner, the mood shifted from anger to determination. Plates were passed, stories were shared, and plans were made. This was what family was supposed to be, not secret deals and betrayals, but open hearts and shared purpose. Later, as everyone helped clean up, Marcus pulled me aside. "Kerry's sentencing is next week," he said quietly. "You ready for that?" I looked around at my family, battered but unbroken, angry but united. More than ready. It's time for justice. Through the window, I could see the farm stretching out under the evening sky. The same view Grandpa must have had when he wrote that letter, knowing what was coming but believing in the strength of family to overcome it. He was right. We were stronger together, and no betrayal could break that bond. The courthouse felt colder than it should have for a summer morning. I sat in the front row between Mom and Marcus, watching Kerry in his orange jumpsuit as the judge prepared to deliver the sentence. Your Honour, Kerry's lawyer stood. My client wishes to address the court. The judge nodded. Proceed, Mr. Diaz. Kerry turned to face us, his face gaunt and aged. I never meant for things to go this far. Objection, the prosecutor interrupted. The defendant has shown no genuine remorse throughout these proceedings. Overruled, the judge said. Continue, Mr. Diaz. Laurel, Kerry addressed Mom directly, his voice cracking. You're my sister. You have to understand. I thought I could make things better for everyone. Mom stood up, pulling out a worn envelope. May I speak, Your Honour? The judge gestured for her to approach. This is a letter from our father, Mom said, her voice steady, found in his personal effects after Kerry's arrest. I'd like to read it. Kerry's face went pale as Mom unfolded the paper. My dear children, she began, if you're reading this, then the worst has happened. Kerry, son, I've watched you destroy yourself with greed, watched you plot against your own blood. But worse than the money you've stolen is the trust you've broken. A family's faith in each other is worth more than all the gold in the world. Kerry slumped in his chair as Mom continued. Laurel, my daughter, stay strong. The farm isn't just land, it's the story of our family's struggles and triumphs. And Peyton, Mum's voice caught. My granddaughter, I've watched you grow into someone who understands what really matters. The farm will need your strength in the days to come. The courtroom was silent as Mom finished reading. Even the judge seemed moved. Mr. Diaz, the judge said finally, your crimes aren't just against property. They're against family, against trust, against the very bonds that hold communities together. Kerry nodded weakly. The court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison with the possibility of parole after 5 years. Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution to your family. The gavel struck, and Kerry's shoulders sagged. As officers led him away, he turned one last time. Peyton, he called out. I'm sorry, I really am. I met his eyes. So am I, Uncle Kerry. So am I. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Willie stepped in, handling their questions, while we made our way to the cars. But one voice cut through the chaos. You think this is over? Aunt Audrey stood at the bottom of the steps. Lucky Sevens doesn't just walk away. They'll find another way. Marcus stepped forward. Actually, they won't. Show her, Peyton. I pulled out my phone, displaying the morning's news headline. Lucky Sevens management indicted in multi-state fraud investigation. Kerry's testimony helped bring down their entire operation, I explained. The only one still standing against us is you, Aunt Audrey. And you're next. Her face contorted. You don't understand what you've done. There are people. Save it for your own trial, Willie interrupted, appearing beside us. Which, by the way, starts next month. As Audrey stormed off, Mum touched the locket around her neck, the one with Grandpa's picture inside. He'd be proud of you, she said softly. All of you. The farm's safe now, Marcus added. Really safe. Reese joined us, holding up her phone. Just got word from the bank. All Kerry's fraudulent transactions have been reversed. The farm's fully back in family trust control. Then, there's just one thing left to do, I said. That evening we gathered at the farm. The whole family came, aunts, uncles, cousins, even old Willie. We stood in the field where Grandpa had first broken ground 60 years ago. Mom pulled out one last surprise, Grandpa's old tin box. Inside was a stack of photos, documents, and a single brass key. He left this for whoever would protect the farm, she explained, holding out the key. Peyton, I think he meant it for you. As I took the key, its weight felt right somehow. Not a burden, but a responsibility. A trust. To family, Marcus raised his glass. To justice, Reese added. To the future, Mom said. I looked out over our land, not just acres and crops, but a legacy of love and determination. Carrie had tried to sell that legacy for cash, but some things, as Grandpa knew, are worth more than money. To truth, I said finally, and to all the stories these fields still have to tell. The sun set over our farm, our home, our heritage. And this time I knew it was safe in the hands of those who truly understood its worth. The morning dew still clung to the grass as I unlocked the farmhouse door. Grandpa's key turned smoothly in the lock, like it had been waiting for this moment. Inside, the renovation crew was already gathering, ready to restore what Kerry's neglect had damaged. "Where do you want to start?" Marcus asked, blueprint in hand. "The kitchen," Mom said before I could answer. "That's where everything important happens." As workers began carefully removing the old cabinets, we discovered something behind them, a hidden panel. Inside was a small safe, identical to the one we'd found in Kerry's study. "Think the same combination will work?" Reese asked. I tried Grandpa's birthday. The safe clicked open, revealing stacks of papers and a USB drive. "Look at this," Marcus said, scanning the documents. "Account numbers, transaction record." Kerry wasn't Grandpa's first problem. He caught Uncle Robert trying to sell the farm back in the 80s. That's why he created the trust, Mom realized. He knew the farm would always need protecting. Willie arrived as we were reviewing the files. "Just came from Audrey's plea hearing. She's taking a deal. Full confession in exchange for a reduced sentence." "Did she say why?" I asked. "Why they really did it." "Ambition, mostly. Kerry convinced her they could be something bigger than just farmers. But there's something else." Willie pulled out his phone. "The FBI found offshore accounts. They weren't just planning a casino. They were going to build an entire resort complex. Would have destroyed every acre of farmland. The renovation crew called us over. They'd found something else in the walls. Hidden behind decades of wallpaper was a mural painted by my grandmother showing the farm in its early days. I remember this. Mom touched the faded paint. She painted it the year they finally paid off the original mortgage. As we carefully uncovered more of the mural, a knock at the door interrupted us. A young woman stood there, looking uncertain. "I'm sorry to intrude," she said. "I'm Tony's daughter, from Lucky Sevens. I wanted to apologize for everything my father and his partners did." I studied her face. She had her father's eyes, but none of his coldness. "Dad's going to prison for a long time," she continued, "but before they took him, he told me to give you this." She handed over a thick envelope. Inside were property deeds, all the parcels Kerry had secretly sold to Lucky Sevens shell companies. "They're signed back over to your family," she explained. "No strings attached. Dad said. He said some debts can't be paid with money." After she left, we stood in silence looking at the deeds. "It's really over," Reese whispered. "No," I said, watching the workers carefully restore Grandma's mural. "It's really beginning." The renovation continued throughout the day. Family members dropped by, each bringing something. Old photos, stories, pieces of our history we'd almost lost. Cousin Sarah found Grandma's original recipe box hidden in the pantry. Uncle Pete discovered Grandpa's old ledgers in the barn, documenting every season's plantings. As the sun set, we gathered on the porch, surrounded by the evidence of our family's resilience. The farm stretched out before us, golden in the evening light. "You know what this place needs?" Marcus grinned. "A proper celebration." Mom smiled. "I think I know just the thing." She went inside and returned with Grandma's recipe box. "Who's ready to learn how to make her famous apple pie?" In the kitchen, now half renovated, we worked together, flour flying, laughter echoing off the walls. The recipe wasn't just ingredients. It was a piece of our heritage, preserved and passed down. "To think we almost lost all this," Reese said, crimping the pie crust. "But we didn't," I replied, "because some things can't be bought or sold. Some things can only be earned, protected, and shared." The pie came out perfect, just like Grandma used to make. As we sat around the old kitchen table sharing slices and stories, I felt Grandpa's presence in every bite. "You know what this farm really is?" Mom asked, looking around at all of us. "It's not just land or buildings. It's a promise, from one generation to the next. A promise to remember who we are and what matters most. I touched the key hanging around my neck, not just a piece of metal, but a symbol of that promise. Kerry had tried to break it. Audrey had tried to sell it. But in the end, the promise was stronger than their greed. Outside, the first stars appeared over fields that would always belong to our family. Not because of legal documents or trust agreements, but because we'd fought for them, together. And that, I realized, was the greatest inheritance of all.